In this video, I will demonstrate how to use algebra tiles to model equations with variables on both sides. This lesson is featured in Unit 6, which is the first unit of the third 9 weeks. As you can see, this is a 3-day lesson. However, students are only using algebra tiles on day 1 as an introduction to this new concept. This is standard 11. So by the end of this 3-day lesson, students should be able to solve equations with variables on both sides algebraically. In addition, they will also learn how to set up an equation given a real-world situation. That will not take place until day 3. As we build equations with the algebra tiles, we will be making the connection to the algebraic representation. So I'm going to begin with this first problem, 4x equals 2x plus 8. Before we build the equation, we will discuss what each of these values are. So this green tile here represents a positive 1x. The red tile represents a negative 1x. The yellow square represents a positive 1, and the red square represents a negative 1. So on the left-hand side, there would be my 4x. And on the right-hand side, I would have 2x plus 8. Once we have our equation built, we would talk about how we would like to find the value of just 1x by itself. Here we talk about whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other side to keep our balance in check. Because our x's are both the same color, then we can remove them and not alter the balance at all. So I can remove 2 x's from both sides and it still keeps the equation in check. Algebraically, I would show that as subtracting 2x from both sides. And that leaves me with a positive 2x equals 8. Once we're here, we now have all of our variables only on one side and our constants on the other side. Students were introduced to solving one-step equations in the 6th grade, so this now is a review of something they had previously learned. To show that I'm going to divide, so I want to divide my 2 x's into 2 equal groups. I would just split them into 2 groups on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side I'm going to split what is remaining into 2 equal groups. So algebraically I show that with a fraction bar in 2. And now I can match these up, so 1x would be equal to a positive 4. I encourage my students to check their solutions by plugging back their value into the original equation. So 4 groups of 4 is 16, and on the right hand side 2 groups of 4 is 8, plus 8 more is also 16. Example 2, I'm going to be working with some negatives. So on the left hand side I have a negative x plus 2. And on the right hand side I have 2x minus 4. Here I can't simply just remove something because they are not equal. They have different values. So instead I will be adding something to both sides. So in this case I'm going to add a 1x to both sides. You could also do it the other way where you subtract 2 from both sides. So you have to pick one variable that you want to eliminate and do the opposite to both sides. So here I have chosen to add 1x to both sides. And when I add 1x to the left-hand side, that creates a zero pair. And that zero pair would be eliminated. And my equation that I'm left with is 2 equals 3x minus 4. Now I can remove those -4 from the right-hand side, and I'm going to do that by adding 4 to both sides of the equation. When I add 4 to both sides of the equation, I now have 4 zero pairs on the right-hand side, and those 4 zero pairs can be removed from my board. And I'm left with 6 equals 3x. Here I can now divide both sides into 3 equal groups. So I've divided the right-hand side into 3 equal groups and the left-hand side into 3 equal groups. And each side, so now 1x, I can pair it up with what is on the left. So a positive 1x is equal to a positive 2. Here you can still use algebra tiles to model the distributive property. I'm going to begin by building the right-hand side because it's already simplified. So here's my 5x minus 3. On the left-hand side, I have 2 groups of x plus 3. So I'm going to start with building one group of x plus 3. And I'm going to add a second group of x plus 3 to the board. And when I simplify that, I now see that I have 2 1x's, which would be 2x, and 2 groups of 3, which would be my positive 6. From here, this is like examples 1 and 2. So you would continue the process just like you did on the previous screens. I will be sharing with you a Google slide presentation that has several pages of different types of problems that would be good to model with the algebra tiles. You are going to have an opportunity to explore and just practice moving the manipulatives around and building the equations and connecting it to the algebraic representation.